Hello and welcome again to another wonderful summer of GST Global Live Speakers Summit for the topic of mastering the art of leadership today. Thank you for joining us. We have a lineup of 5 incredible speakers, thought leaders themselves in their own niches, and they're here to share with you some ideas about how you can also master the art of leadership. I am Lisa Marie. I'm happy to welcome you here as your host of GST. And I want to start today by telling you a little bit about our organization, if you'll allow me. So I would like to share my screen and share with you a little bit about ourselves. So we have we are a new community started in 2000. We're 2 years old. We've just had our first birthday, and it's a startup international company in the public speaking industry. Apologies. I just need to move the screen here. We're here to help you to uncover and discover your amazing inner voice. So we are determined to raise and lift and encourage and inspire all new coaches and trainers who are camera shy, to face their fears and do it anyway. We're here to provide you with accountability and a welcoming smile and a lovely, amazing family community with positive feedback to strengthen the confidence in your voice. Our core belief is that we think that every voice is a new voice. It's a story to be told, and it needs to come into the light and grow and make an impact in the world. So our big vision is to inspire, raise, and support 1 million inner voices, empowering them to use their voice to reach their full potential and share what they have to say with the world. So on that note, I would like to tell you a little bit about myself. I am, as I said, Lisa Marie. I wear several hats. I'm actually a primary school teacher, and I've been a primary school teacher for 25 years, but I've been out of the classroom for a few years because I started my own business called Exquisite Learners. I'm an early years specialist. So now I work with parents at home and children to help the parents to feel inspired and empowered to work with their own children, support the learning at home in fun, engaging, interactive ways through games and play, basically, because I'm a strong believer that children will learn best through play, even up to the age of the end of primary school, which is like the age of 12. So I like to encourage parents to enjoy the learning, to embrace the learning with their children, the new learning experience together, and therefore create lovely family bonds and build lots of memories and love learning basically for the lifetime. I'm also a children's book illustrator. This year I teamed up with a friend of mine who's a children's author, a very successful children's author in South Africa. And we decided that we were going to launch a series of books for children on Amazon. And we have to date now launched in the last 6 months, 6 titles, one of which came out last week, which is our Christmas special. And it's basically a book collection that's for your reluctant readers who are a bit older, early advanced readers from the age of 4, 5, 6. It can also be used as a read aloud for children who are young, where the parents can enjoy the story with the children. But really it was built as a bridging book between children who are going from reading picture books to reading chapter stories and light novels. So it's sort of an in-betweeny book, if you like, that bridges that, because it's the size of a picture book and it has pictures in it which the children can draw and get involved with the story in and add to their own images as well. I think that's important to me as an illustrator and as an artist, that children really get involved in the story and use their imaginations to the best of their ability. So that's really me. But I'm also a proud member of the GST team. I host a podcast, Be Fearless, which is very, very close to my heart. The reason I wanted to do this particular topic is because I used to suffer from the fear of just a crippling fear, if you like, of being able to speak live in front of an audience. I it would worry me for days. And I know what it feels like that when you turn that camera on, it's like everything changes. Or if you stand on that stage, everything just, sometimes you can go to blank. So for me, it was really important to feel that fear and not let it stop me from reaching my dreams. So through GST, through the community, the vibe, the family support, the amazing thing that we have going there, it's really helped me to work on that crippling fear. And now, although obviously I still feel a normal level of fear, because fear is normal and it helps us to do the best job that we can, now when I go into a live engagement, I don't let the worry set in for a long time before I have that crippling kind of fear. So now I would say that I'm living my life a little bit more fearlessly every day. And so I am really glad that you're here with us today to learn some more about mastering the art of leadership. And I would like to, at this time, share with you that our first speaker is going to be, apologies, my computer is giving me a little trouble. So let me see if I can get out. There we go. I don't know why I had to do it that way, but I did it that way. So let's go back to the Zoom, and it's and now we need to wow. I don't know, my computer's not being my friend today. But the first speaker that we have today is indeed Samantha Bunn, and we're very excited to introduce her today. Samantha is coming to us excuse me. Samantha is coming to us with a wealth of experience in her niche. She is a very successful self-love and confidence coach, and she's been helping women to boldly love, claim, and express their true limitless self. Oh gosh, sorry friends, I don't know why my computer's doing this to me today. Let's try that again. Okay, her journey led her from the experience of breaking through cultural barriers and being free of judgment to becoming a writer and a pole dancing instructor. And now, through that, Samantha does help women to gain their confidence through the movement and building empowering communities. So without further ado, I'm going to stop the share, if my computer lets me. Wow. There we go. Stop the share. I've pressed every button that tells me to stop the share, and it's not stopping the share. Oh, these things happen. Okay, so Samantha, are you with us, my lovely? There she is. Look at her, beautiful Samantha. Let me put you on to the gallery view a moment so that we can enjoy Samantha on the video. Hi, Samantha. Would you like to tell us all about the art of leadership, my lovely?
Perfect. Thank you so much to you, Lisa Marie, and also to the GST team for having me. I'm actually tuning in from Sydney, Australia. So first, I'd like to acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, who are the traditional custodians of this land. We're living on stolen land, and pay my respects to elders past and present. It's actually 2 a.m. here on a Sunday. So if I'm yawning throughout this, it's not because I'm actually finding anyone's talk boring. I'm trying very madly to stay awake. Yeah, but I'm really, really privileged to be able to be part of this, especially hearing you share a little bit about Global Speakers Talk's mission. Yeah, and it's amazing. Thank you. So now, on the topic of leadership, so this is definitely something I've spent a lot of time reflecting on this entire year as I begin to step more into leadership as a coach and also as a community leader. And I think the best way to think about it is in terms of reflecting on past leadership experiences. I always think of this one manager I have who, just through the way that she leads, was able to empower me to step into being the best version of myself. She was somebody who, when really paid attention to all my skills, made an effort to really nurture and develop certain qualities within me as a staff, and yeah, use that as a way to encourage me and empower me to do better within that role. She was stern, but really fair, and she kept me accountable. She's not afraid to pull me up on certain things, but also allowed me to know that even though she was pulling me up on certain, weaknesses, that she was, that I was still supported regardless. And this is perhaps the role where I thrived the most. And I compared that to previous experiences of leadership where the result wasn't so great. So through almost like a dictatorship type of leadership, the opposite was achieved. I felt disempowered. I felt like I didn't want to do my work. Whereas in the role that I had then, I felt like, wow, my manager should really trust me. And because of that, I wanted to do my best to meet and step up to the plate. So this is definitely something I think about when I think about effective leadership. And, growing up, I definitely was not a natural born leader. I grew up in a suburb called Bonnyrigg in southwest Sydney. And my parents are immigrants. They came from the Cambodia, and they fled the Khmer Rouge regime. So as you can imagine, having escaped a communist, very authoritarian leadership, they were quite afraid themselves, and starting up in a new country, not knowing how to speak any English. So that really influenced the way I was raised. It was, I was very timid. I was very shy. We were taught not to speak up. Dad coming to Australia at a time where racism was quite, strife, and he got bullied himself in the workplace. So a lot of those fears got passed on to us as their children. Yeah, so we were very disciplined. I was very disciplined, and I was taught to follow the rules. And yeah, it was just a cultural norm for young Asian girls to not speak up, to not use their voice. And so, yeah, I grew up really, really afraid, and just tried to stay in the background as much as I possibly could. So, that really kind of conflicted with also being encouraged to do really well at school, and, fight and be in a position that was respectable. And so that was quite challenging, navigating those two different ways of being, being the good, quiet Asian girl, and also, we want you to be a successful doctor, lawyer, or whatever it is. So very conflicting. So I found there was a bit of a crisis of identity for me there. And so I always found myself in positions of leadership. Like I eventually went on, when I first, early on in my career, went into teaching. So I did find myself in leadership there, but I didn't embody leadership in my personal life. And this is where I really struggled. So it wasn't until I was in my mid-20s and I almost got set up in an arranged marriage. So it's quite common in my culture to be set up in an arranged marriage. And it was a very interesting story, or how that kind of unfolded. So the man who sponsored my family into Australia lived on the same village as my grandmother. And so I treated him like a relative. and he wanted his nephew to come to Australia. And at this point of my life, I would say that I was quite successful and seen as a leader in my community. But at home, I was still that timid, shy girl. And so I came home and I had both families sitting at the lounge room, and it was almost an expectation that I felt there to just say yes and go ahead with it, because, you know, it was almost like, oh, okay, he's saved our family, so you've got no choice but to continue repay that debt for your family. Yeah, and I almost went ahead and said yes to this because I was so afraid to say no. And that's when I was my leadership, my personal leadership was really tested, because everywhere else I was able to really perform as a leader, but in my own personal life, I really struggled. And I guess that's why I pursued this journey into self-love and confidence, because I didn't have that. I wasn't able to express myself and say no when I really needed it at the time. I wasn't backing myself. And so I ended up getting engaged to this man and felt awful about it because I didn't love him. And I realized that I really needed to stand up for myself and say no, even though there was that fear there of, you know, being reprimanded or being punished by my parents. But I was already a full-grown adult at this stage. So yeah, and then eventually I went with my gut, and I told them I actually don't want to do this. So this is where my journey, that rebellion, and as Lisa Marie shared earlier, I am also now a pole dancing instructor. So as you can imagine, there's a massive cultural clash there as well. It's still a shock to them, I believe, that I am a pole dancing instructor. I'm quite public about it. And I teach women empowerment through body movement and through sensuality and expressing themselves and exploring their bodies and self-image. And this is something I absolutely love to do. And I believe that it was almost like a rebellion, because for such a long time, I felt like my body wasn't mine. And because, you know, I was so easily kind of traded off, right? So this was kind of my way of going, no, actually, my body belongs to me. I am my own person. And you don't get to dictate who I marry and who I become. And that's really what led me into this journey of personal leadership and teaching other women how to love themselves as well. But more recently, now that that's one layer of, so there was the professional leadership versus the personal leadership side. And that's just one layer of leadership. And now that I've mastered the personal leadership side, and I'm using it now to influence my community and the women around me. So in the last year, I've really had to reflect on what leadership means to me. And this really started, I'm sure a lot of you here have heard of that book by Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. And he talks about setting up a mastermind, the principle of the mastermind. So during the lockdowns, during when COVID first struck, I decided to set up my own mastermind. And I managed to pull in 6 women from my community group that I was part of leading. And from that experience, I really learned what the heart of leadership is, because you go in to a mastermind not completely thinking I'm going to lead this group, but it's more, how can I be of service to all the members of this group? And that really flips the switch on leadership, because this whole time we've been taught that leadership is being in this position of power and telling people what to do. But really, it's actually stepping into the ring and saying, how can I be of service to this group and community of women, or whoever it is that you're leading. For me, it was a group of 6 women. And so as soon as I flipped that intention and I made it less about me, my own fears out of the way, and I step into the ring and I say, how can I be of service to this group of people here today? How can I serve? How can I empower? How can I support? How can I uplift? And then you start to see how everybody, the way that you interact with everybody changes, and the way that they interact with you and the others also begin to change. Because then they start to step into that same energy and that same space of how can I be of service? And I found in those times where I thought I was the one leading, that these women became the support that I needed when I needed it the most as well. And they felt empowered to step into their own leadership in that space by supporting each other, by uplifting each other, by encouraging each other. And so that's how I now frame leadership, is how can I be of service? When your fear gets in the way, you've got to take a step back and say, this isn't about me. This is about the person in front of me. And how can I serve them today from the bottom of my heart? And so that to me is what one really important aspect of mastering the art of leadership. Thank you, Lisa Marie. You're on mute.
Sorry, I realized I was on mute to stop myself from coughing in front of you all. And then when I coughed, I remembered. Apologies. I was just saying, what an inspiring story, Samantha. Amazing for you to share that with us. And, you know, your little journey to leadership and who inspired you and how you were inspired. So thank you so much. That I hope that everyone listening as well has been able to have a takeaway there from Samantha's story. We're so proud to have you here, Samantha, and you've been very successful in your self-love coaching, and it's always lovely to see a woman who's inspired to do something with a passion, as all of our ladies are here today in what they are doing to help others. So thank you so much for your contribution today. We really appreciate it. And to keep the momentum going, we have indeed another speaker. And the next the next speaker we are going to be sharing today is the lovely Marty. And I want to tell you a little bit about Marty. She is a somatic coach and a best-selling author. She's actually a best-selling international author, and she has decided to become a transpersonal therapist and a somatic coach. She now helps others and enjoys what she does, and she helps them to become sovereign and empowered beings by guiding them to an intimate and authentic remembering of self. And with that, I want to introduce you now to the lovely Marty, who's here. I'm just going to put her on speaker view here, and click to make you the spotlight. There you are, Marty. Hi.
Thank you so much, Lisa Marie. I am so happy to be here. Thank you for sharing your story, Samantha. I agree. Leadership involves very much the attitude of being of service to others. I want to take a little bit of a different perspective, as I tend to always do, in regards to leadership. And I want to start by relating an experience I had a few weeks ago. I was at a dinner party, and the couple beside me was visiting, as they do, and they decided to start talking politics. And the gentleman made the statement that He had initially thought Pitt Romney was a disaster until he compared him with who replaced him. And then he said he would be delighted to have Pitt back. And I had no intentions of discussing politics, but I did very much want to address a toxic perception that we have when it comes to government and leaderships. Although I was referencing leadership within the United States, I'm sure you will agree that many of the leaders that we have to choose from in this world are a choice of two evils. And so I asked this gentleman, I said, why do we feel that we have to choose between two evils? Are there really only two choices? And he stopped for a moment to contemplate that. And as we discussed, that mentality really keeps us stuck, right? It keeps us in a cycle of hopelessness. And the mindset that society has regarding leadership is faulty. We need new leaders. We need a new way of leading. With that in mind, I want to reference the quote by Gandhi. He said that if we could change ourselves, the tendencies of the world would also change. That as a man changes his nature, so does the attitude of the world change towards him. We've often heard that paraphrased as, be the change you want to see in the world. Just think about that. If we could change, the world would change. So to be leaders, we need to embody change. We need to be leaders of self before we think of leading anyone else. You know, the responsibility for this change then is mine, it's yours, and together it's ours. We desperately need change. And so how do we go about leading self or becoming the embodiment of the leadership that we want, right? I know that this is a new perspective because the world looks at leadership as an external force. And when we are looking at leadership from that way, we really are powerless. Leadership worldwide, and especially in the industrial nations, has become about acquiring wealth and power. And that has resulted in the idea of individuals and communities feeling small and powerless. It has increased the tendency where we are prone to be persuaded to join others in their perception of being wronged or victimized. And in this place, we're stuck. And if we keep choosing between poor leaders, we're going to see more poverty, more depression, more violence, more pollution. And we are already at an all-time high. So, seeing that we need change so desperately, what are the actions we can take? The very first action to self-leadership is accountability. To take responsibility for our lives and our experiences. You know, there's a lot of talk today about self-love and self-awareness, and those phrases are tossed about left and right. And they are essential for leadership. However, when we stick at the concept of them, when we stay stuck there, they do us no good. They need to be actionable. And true leadership requires action. So the action to becoming self-aware, number one, is accountability, to understand that we alone are responsible for every thought, every feeling, everything we say, and everything we do. That no one and no thing can change or influence the way we think or behave without our authorization. Just feel into that. Nothing, absolutely nothing, can change or influence the way you feel unless you say it can. There is so much power in that. And when we step into that power of actually owning our thoughts and our feelings, we come to the realization that we are not at the mercy of any external force, that every event is neutral. It has zero meaning other than that which we assign it. So we define every event. Now, can you imagine what would your world look like if every person you knew took 100% responsibility for the way they thought, the way they felt, what they said, and what they did? There would be no blame. There would be no victims. In this place where we understand that we are in charge and that events don't have to influence us, that's a place of great empowerment. We actually step into a place of sovereignty. And we learn as we're living this experience that there's nothing we need to take personally. And through that, we own our own processes. We allow others to own and have their own processes. And the more that we step into that empowered place of owning our experiences, we serve others because we emulate for them what it's like to live in a place of balance, in a place of being able to be open and receptive no matter what is happening, and to find and maintain our balance even amid chaos. The more that we become responsible for ourselves, we also increase in inner strength and confidence. And we need that inner strength and confidence if we want to know ourselves better, because we cannot serve others when we don't even know who we are. So in order to know ourselves better, we have to start digging, right? We dig into the shadows and the wounded aspects. And we can't do that if we haven't first developed an awareness of what we're thinking and what we're feeling. So it's really about developing that intimate relationship with self. And the more that we sink into this place of self-inquiry and self-discovery, we are going to come up against our weaknesses and into our strengths, and not out of a place of ego or judgment, but out of a desire to actually be the authentic expression of who we are. And when we do this, we vet out any selfishness or insecurity. And in this place where we have gotten rid of the selfishness and insecurity, we come into a place of trust. We don't need to hide aspects of ourselves anymore. There's no insecurity about who we are. We have accepted all of these things we've unearthed and discovered, and we can now have open and honest conversations, transparent dialogues. And in this place, we actually become invulnerable in our vulnerability. We understand that we can have conversations with people of differing viewpoints and opinions, and it doesn't challenge us, but rather it helps foster growth and further collaboration. That we can share openly with others what our needs, our desires, and our concerns are without fear, because we don't fear rejection, because we understand that their process is theirs. And we don't look to others to approve or satisfy our desires, because in this place of trusting ourselves, we've stepped into a place where we really understand what we are capable of, and we know that we can satisfy and meet our own desires. We also trust that because we can do that, that others can do that as well. And true leadership requires trust. It requires trust in ourselves and in others. The vast majority of people don't trust themselves. They're continually second-guessing themselves. And it makes sense that they don't trust themselves, because they spent so much time denying, rejecting, and suppressing aspects of themselves. And very few have ever decided to do the deep inner work of getting to know themselves beyond who they think they are, beyond the masks and the armor that they wear. And the more aware we become, the more we can trust ourselves and show up not only for ourselves, but for others as well. When we have this trust and security in ourselves, there's no need for competition. Instead, we choose to inspire others to become the best that they can, to reach their highest potential. We actually will help not only inspire them, but offer opportunities for them to realize, create, to step into and celebrate their own power. And we are more than happy to celebrate that with them. Can you imagine what our communities would look like if each and every one of us was operating at our highest potential and inspired to do so? The betterment, that there would be no limit to the betterment for humanity that we could accomplish if we were to collaborate in this way. Lao Tzu stated in the Tao that a leader is best when people barely know he exists. When his work is done, his aim is fulfilled, they will say, we did it ourselves. And that is the example of true leadership. It starts within, doing that deep self-inner work where we love and accept ourselves, creates harmony and balance within. And our life becomes an example to others. That harmony and balance ripples across the surface of our communities. Our work, the inner work, shows people that we are accountable, that we are trustworthy, that we are empowered, and we are secure. And that will inspire and influence others to do the same. Your friends, your family, your coworkers, your community, and ultimately the world. This is how we influence change across the world. And that change is so subtle that the origin is obscured. This is leadership. This is how we change the world. So the question is, are you going to sit on the sidelines and choose between two poor choices, or will you be the change? Thank you, Lisa. Marie.
Amazing. Amazing. Wow. Thank you so much, Marty. That it was a very, very inspiring, powerful talk again. And I would like to say that I took a few things from that. I know that many of you listening did. And I think one of the most powerful things is that whole, I think personal development and personal reflection is important in all aspects of life, but you're there presenting how it's so essential to being in a leadership position. And what I loved is, you know, when you took the quote as well, and that's the power, isn't it, in leadership? It is when you're almost invisible and the people that you're leading feel empowered that they have made the change. When we all think about any organization we've been in, the best leaders are the ones where you know that a whole system runs well because of its leader, and that leadership is not so visible. It's not about the leadership, it's about the people and what they're doing as a result of that leadership. I absolutely love the power in what you said. Thank you for sharing. I hope that those of you who are listening can share with us in the comments about your biggest takeaway so far from Samantha and Marty. Thanks again, Marty, for being here. It's wonderful to be around so many inspirational women this morning. I feel blessed to be on this stage and able to host for you speakers today. And without further ado, I would like to move on to our next speaker who's coming up, who again is a very powerful woman who's been very successful in her field. Parul is coming up and she is going to talk to us about her take on leadership. And Parul is a life and leadership coach, and she is an award-winning certified coach, and she's the founder of Boost Your Confidence Academy. She's as well as this, she's a best-selling international author, a keynote speaker, and a podcaster. And for 20 years, Parul has worked with vulnerable children and families as a senior manager at various UK charities. And I would like to introduce you to Parul. Let's put you on the spotlight. Parul, how are you today?
Thank you, Lisa Marie, and thank you, GST, for this opportunity. Great to hear from Marty and Samantha as well. And my talk is complementing what they've already said. So as I say, I'm Parul, life and leadership coach. So I think whether you are in a leadership role already or thinking about going to the next level, or at home and not sure where to start, what I'm going to share applies to anyone. The important thing is about ourselves, and I'm going to talk about self-leadership. Whatever point of life you are in, whether in a very high level in CEO, you're thinking about how I'm going to meet my targets, how I'm going to meet my organizational goal, without thinking of yourself. Because any point of life, without you growing, you cannot grow organization. So therefore, it's really important, say each individual, each one of us, take responsibility to grow ourselves. Now, I'm going to share 10 top tips that worked for me, that helped me to become who I am. I mean, I have personal journey too. I was not like that, confident talking in front of camera, which I will share a bit later. And one of the things John Maxwell, the leadership guru, talks about is setting an intention. He talks about law of intentionality, which is really important because I use law of intentionality a lot in my life. You know, you have to set intention for your own learning. Without intention, you could be anywhere. You could be here and there. But when you set intention, you know you have a focus. You know, John Maxwell also talked about growth plan. Now, we talked a lot about our personal development plan when in our working life, when we have a supervision saying, what's your personal development plan? So it's applying when you are a leader is really also important. Then doesn't matter you are in CEO and you manage huge organization. What's your own growth plan? Do you have a growth plan? If not, put one, because that growth plan will help you to go to the next level. And learning is lifelong. It's not because I became a CEO, my learning finished. No, learning never finished because we continually learn. So is asking yourself a question, what is your attitude to learning? Do you set yourself a goal in a growth plan? If not, start devising one. the next thing is creating daily habit, because without daily habit, you cannot succeed. Daily habit help us to get to the next level. I'll tell you an example. During COVID, I started to read and listen. And I've constantly done that for 800 days, listening to personal development podcasts and reading from all the leadership gurus, all the personal development gurus. That had helped me a lot in my personal life, my relationship, and my business as well. So it's really important to actually, create a daily habits, a positive habits that will help you towards achieving your goal. My third point is taking personal responsibility of your own learning for your own self-care, because when you are in the career ladder or become a CEO of organization, you're always busy. Think about others, but what about you? Because you must have your cup full to pour it to others. Without having a full cup, you can't pour it to others. So again, it's taking time out to take care of yourself. Sometimes small things help. Go for a walk, watch a comedy that makes you laugh. So, you get the happy hormone, the endorphin, you feel happy. So it's really important to take care of physical and emotional health when you're in that journey. Or if you're not in that journey of leadership, think about yourself. If you're at home and you don't know where to go, it's also important to take care of yourself. And one other thing is that I've always said, you have to take care of inside to grow outside. Because if you are unhappy inside, you can't grow outside. So you have to, and you must look after yourself inside, and that shows outside. The other thing people look at you is your own characteristics. If you are managing people, people look at your character. So developing character is really important. What is you're asking yourself question, what is my character? What I'm, for me, honesty and integrity is really important, because you want to model that so that for people who follows your model, they become successful as you are. So it's really important to develop character, and people do look at people's character when they choose who their leader, who their mentor, who their coach going to be. And my fifth point is creating a vision. Now, vision is so important, whether you're doing a business, your personal development, or your organization. Creating a vision board help us, because it's help us to see, where you want to go, and thinking of presence. Yes, we want to go there, but thinking of, yes, I'm doing this already. So thinking present moment, creating a vision is helps, because you're already visualizing in your mindset. And that led me to having that vision, having a set of action, and then bringing the next point is I'm going to bring is visualization. Because when you put the vision into your mind, visualizing using your 5 senses, feeling it, hearing, seeing it, goes into your mindset. It is automatically setting stone in your mindset. And every day you then take consistent action to bring the vision into reality, whether the vision is your own personal growth or vision of your organizational growth. But I'm always giving importance of personal growth, because when you give importance of personal growth, organization grow automatically, because you're already growing yourself. The next point is about communication, communicating your vision publicly, because when you communicate your vision publicly, you become accountable. You're setting a public accountability. So people can ask, oh, Parul, where are you now? You said you're going to achieve this. Where are you now? So communicating publicly is really, really important. And having faith on yourself. Because when you believe in yourself, there is nothing in the world can stop you from where you want to go. And Norman Vincent Peale said, self-confidence gives you self-realization, which leads you to success. Hence, always believe in yourself and your potential, and never underestimate your self-confidence, willpower. For me, that's an amazing quote that really, when I read, this kind of self-development book is really empower me. So it's really important to believe in yourself and stop comparing yourself to others. It's really important to focus on your strength, not your weakness, because when you focus on your strength, it helps you go to the next level. And sometimes our self-belief comes from how we grow up, what we've been told when you're young, but you can change your self-belief. You don't have to believe in what your parents, your grandparents told you. You can change your mindset. You can change your self-belief, things that works for you, things that uplift you, not things that are going to take you down. Sometimes when you grow up, when you're young, you get, oh, money is evil. Actually, money is not evil. Money also brings you happiness. It's how you see it. So you can change your self-belief from your life experiences and from your own learning. Okay, environment. And I'm talking about environment of people, positive association. And Jim Rohn said, we become the average 5 people who we hang around with, which is absolutely true. Because if we hang around with 5 negative people, we could be the 6th negative. But if we hang around with 5 positive people, we could be the 6th positive person. The question is, obviously, we love our families, but a lot of time we've seen how family member can take you down, giving you negative feedback, negative criticism. We can't choose our family, but we can limit how much time we spend with our families. However, we have the opportunity to choose our friends. We choose our friends, we choose our network, people who uplift us, who's got same vision, who has vision to support you, to see you grow, not criticizing you. I'll give you an example. Recently, 2 months ago, I became best-selling author. One of the old friends came and gave a really personal comment or very negative comment. And I said, you know what, I don't need this kind of people in my life. If they are my friend, they should be happy for my growth, not giving me personal criticism. I've immediately disconnected them from my life. I said, I don't want negative people in my life. I can grow myself and, going to meet with more positive people who's got same vision. So this is just a personal experience of how you can actually choose your friends and choose your network. And my last point of self-leadership is accountability. Now, in order to fulfill your dream, your goal, you really need a good accountability partner, coach or mentor. And it's really important to choose someone who at least 2-3 steps ahead of you, but don't compare yourself with them because you want to learn, you want to grow from them. So always choose someone who is ahead of you. Someone who can remind you of your goal, why you want to do it. Someone who asks you if you have done what you committed to do. And if not holding you back, but actually, encouraging you to do your task. Because accountability eliminates the time and effort you spend on distracting activities and other form of unproductive behavior. Because when you have a coach or a mentor, they always help you to go to the next level. So it's really important to set yourself an accountability partner, because if you have an accountability partner or a mentor or a coach, you're already there, halfway there to achieve your goal. So all I'm going to say to everyone who's listening, take responsibility and don't shy away from learning. Whatever stage in your life you are in, get someone to help you to bring your dream into reality. And I'm done for now. Thank you, Lisa Marie.
Wonderful. That's amazing. Wow, I'm so glad that you were able to share that with us. What a powerful speech again. I hope that if you took something from Parul's speech, that you can share that with us in the comments as well. I would love to just pick up on a few points that you said. You had the list of things that have worked for you, and I think there's a running thread between the 3 speeches this morning about understanding yourself, knowing yourself, that personal connection is the number one, isn't it? About learning, but the vision as well. I loved you mentioned the vision, and also the accountability is another thing that comes up, because we need somebody to, even the best leaders in the world need somebody to be there for them as well, because it's like a surgeon, he can't perform surgery on himself, you always need someone to support you in your goal to do anything. And if you're in the goal of working towards building up your leadership, your self-leadership skills, and becoming a leader, then you're going to need this. And we got a lot of juicy ideas there and advice. Thank you, Parul. Really appreciate everything that you shared with us today. And we have got more coming for you this afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, because our next speaker is Dr. Ola Abbas, and she is coming to us. She's actually works in the NHS, but she's a travel entrepreneur as well. So I'm just going to share my screen and share with you about Ola. She has actually visited well over 80 cities in 31 countries, and she's relocated 3 times. Her top favourite places are Japan and Iceland, and she's a doctor who's crazy passionate about living her best balanced life, showing other professionals how they too can get out of the rat race and have the balance and well-being through travel. Dr. Ola is a marketing director in training, and she's in the top 1% of her company. She founded the Wealthy Travel Community because she believes travel can bring that well-being, income, and grow your overall wealth. Ola loves food and loves to dress up. She believes that dressing well is a form of good manners, and that a girl should both be classy and fabulous. Ola is working on embracing the unknown, and she thrives on certainty. So being an entrepreneur and having to deal with risk and uncertainty can be very challenging. She's learning, though, that the best things happen when you accept the challenge and allow the unknown to unfold. And we are blessed to have her here with us today.
Hello.
Hi. So let me
Hi, Lisa, and thank you very much for having me. Good evening. I'm coming live from Manchester in the UK. So the sun has just about come down over here. And I have just had the privilege of being on this summit. I want to say thank you very much for your organization, Lisa, for making this happen, for making this real. I'm a strong believer in that you can influence people by the written word, but the spoken word is far much more stronger. And you providing this kind of platform for speakers to be able to come on, to inspire, to lead the way, and for people who would want to grow their speaking skills is just absolutely powerful and obviously very empowering. I wanted to start off today and say that leadership is not a position. Leadership is a state of mind, and any one of us at any time in our lives can be a leader. And the way that we communicate our vision, like Parul has mentioned, is the way that we inspire other people and we influence them to follow and to grow as leaders themselves. So just a little bit about me, about my background story that has got me to where I am, because if you were to ask me, Lisa, about 10 years ago, I would have never thought that I would be where I am at the moment. I grew up in Iraq, and I always thought that was my home country. I was born, I was raised, I studied there, and I qualified as a doctor, and I thought that was where I was going to live, and that's where I was going to have my family, and that's my life there. The war happened, and throughout the last war, it was very vicious, and it forced me to move out of my country. And in moving out of my country, it had created an own leadership path, so to speak, for me. And Marty had touched earlier about the choices that we have in life and how we try and choose the less evil choice. I decided that I'm not going to settle for that. I'm not going to choose the less evil. I'm going to find the best, and I'm going to lead my own way through it. And that's another really important point for leaders to know and to understand, is that a leader starts by leading themselves. You don't start with a massive following. And I don't know if you've seen that video. It's a very famous video on YouTube of this person who starts dancing in a field, and there's nobody else dancing with them. And it's not really a dancing party. It's just people sat there having picnics, and he just starts dancing. He was leading himself first, and then other people followed and then started dancing with him. So you start by leading yourself first. And that's what I did. I decided I'm not going to settle for the options that were available around me. I immigrated to Dubai at that time with my parents. And I'm sure like all the speakers and the attendees will agree when I say Dubai is quite a nice cushiony life, isn't it? It's lovely. You sat there, there's lots of luxuries around you. I had daddy's credit card to support me. I was like, why would anyone want to, like not just sit and bask in that? But I decided, no, I want to build my career. I have a different vision for what I want to achieve, and I have a higher potential that I need to reach. And I decided to study. I worked so incredibly hard to be able to train in Lebanon first. Initially, that was the only opportunity that I had at that time, until I carved my way to have a bigger and a better opportunity in the United Kingdom. And I came over here, and it was against all of the odds, but I carried on leading myself, and I didn't know. And that's another really important point about leadership, is that you will not know all of the answers, but you will need to believe in yourself strong enough that you will be able to figure it out. And you will be able to create the solution and the environment and the place that you will thrive in. And there were times, and this is something that Parul has touched on, is the people around you. There were times where I sat on my own between four walls, because this was better company for me than to sit with other people that were going to drag me down and not let me to reach my potential. So that sometimes might be a choice that you need to accept until you are in a circle of people who will push you and propel you to move forward. Fast forward in my career journey, after 10 years of training and working, so actually the medical world and medicine has taken more than half of my life. But 10 years as postgraduate training, became a consultant, and then working as a consultant in intensive care and acute medicine in the NHS was very stressful and grueling before the pandemic, let alone when we saw what the pandemic had done to us. And we used to talk before about stress, and we used to talk about like work and life is imbalanced and we're doing too much, and we talked about burnout. And when the pandemic came, we were hit by a wave of moral injury. It wasn't just your simple burnout. It was a wave of moral injury where everybody was feeling this heightened amount of stress, where people had lots of demons come out from their closets, because it was things that we were not prepared to see, but were things where we had to rise up to the challenge and lead, especially in healthcare and as a position as a consultant and as the kind of speciality that I was doing. And I needed an outlet, and I figured out that I'm not going to be the only person that is feeling this way. And I thought to myself that I'm going to create the change, because I'm not going to settle like before. I didn't settle before, and I'm not going to settle now. And I recognize that there is a need for this change, for an injection of new life, for that balance. And so I led the way. And against all of the odds, when the pandemic went crazy and when we announced national lockdown, I came across an opportunity to start a travel business. And lots of people called me crazy. And lots of people were like, this is not normal, something is wrong with you. But again, that has been said by so many leaders up until the point that they have actually made their vision seen by lots of people. And I didn't mind being called crazy, because I was like, we're in lockdown, the worst case scenario is that I've had some fun with it. I book some of my own holidays. And then if it doesn't work out, you know what, we go back to normal life. What's the worst that can happen? But I'd rather die. I'm someone that I'd rather die with regrets of having done something rather than die with wishes and dreams that I've never gone for. And that's another big quality of leaders as well. Always try before you say that this is not going to work or this is not a viable option. So I started that business, and little did I know that over the 2 years of the pandemic and now another year after, it has grown into an international franchise spanning across 3 countries. And now I work with well over 100 burnt out professionals, used to be burnt out, but now they are empowered through the travel business, through the work that they do with me, to create their own wealth and their own well-being through the gift of travel. And back then, if you had asked me if this is what was going to happen, yes, I did have a plan. And yes, I have a vision of making things, reaching to my potential and making things much better and growing and all of that. But I didn't envisage it to be happening in this way. And there's a lot to be said about faith and trusting the process. One of the most amazing books that I have ever read during my journey of leadership and during becoming a business owner, and now actually I have stepped out of my clinical role, on the way of stepping out of my clinical role and going full-time into business coaching with the niche of travel, and mainly helping doctors, burnt out professionals to grow and to develop to their own potential and create their well-being through travel. But one of the most important books that I have read, and I always recommend it, is The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. And it's written by John Maxwell. If anyone ever wants to read anything about leadership, it's John Maxwell. He's your guy. And there's 5 very important rules that I will touch on, because these are rules that I live by. Number 1 is the law of process. You have to understand and you have to know that leaders develop daily. We don't get born the way that we are. I certainly 3 years ago, the first time that I went live on my Facebook, you would not be able to tell what I was saying, because I was so nervous and I was riddled with anxiety, and I did not make any sense. And my heart was beating so fast that I had to stop during the live to be able to breathe. We're not born like this, and we don't talk like this, from day one. It's a process, and we grow and we develop and we read and we learn. So you have to understand that leadership is a process. The law of addition is law number 2, and this is something that the speakers before me have touched on, is how are you serving the people? The concept of a servant leader. What are you adding to those people to make them grow and thrive? And the law of connection, and especially in the more digitalized version of the world that we have stepped into after the pandemic, is how are you connecting with your people? And John Maxwell in his book says, touch a heart before you ask for a hand. How are you moving someone before you shake hands with them in business or in anything else? And then the law of sacrifice. You can't have it all. You have to give up to go up. And it depends, what is it that you are giving up? Some people might be giving up the meaningless time that they might be spending in gossip. Might be some Netflix shows. I'm very guilty of Netflix. But there has to be something in your life that you give up to replace it with something else that is moving you forward. There's always a law of sacrifice. It has to apply. And then the law of priorities. And this is something very important, because a lot of people have asked me, how did you manage while you're a consultant and you're working full-time in the NHS during a COVID pandemic to actually build a business? And the law of priorities was a very big one that played into that, because I needed to know what I needed to do, what I needed to defer, what I had to delegate, and what just needed to be deleted. It just does not need to go ahead with. And that was the law of priorities. And it's so important into moving you and propelling you forward, because one of the things that I actually changed when you prepare and you go into interviews and people go like, "Ooh, practice your weaknesses, get better with your weaknesses." And it's like, no. In real life, that might apply for interviews. In real life, you need to really work on the things that you are so super good at and become excellent at, that people pay you to do them, and so you can pay other people to do the things that you are not really good at all. Because they're just going to waste your time, and they're going to zap out your energy, and you're going to be good for no one and for nothing by spending time on that. And so know what your priorities are and focus on them. So that's from me, Lisa. I hope you found it helpful, and hope you found it valuable. Leadership is definitely a journey, and I'm so pleased and blessed that I have met you speakers on here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ola. I mean, that was, again, a really powerful little short speech there, just great. And I think I'd like to appeal to you ladies as well to just give everyone a little reminder, if you wouldn't mind, at the end of this, if you want to just put your 5 points or your 10 points or the essence of what you were getting across today in the comments. I think that will be really helpful as well for people when they're reviewing, because I feel that this is going to be one of those summits where you want to rewind and rewatch, because there's so much good information there that you can't just take it all in at once. But Ola, I love the way that you're saying you're living by those 5 things, and one of the things that really hit me as well was, you know, talking about the priorities that you make, and also the very much the you know, it's about making good decisions, isn't it? And it's about realizing that you are the most important thing, and starting with you and getting it right, so that you can, again, as was presented earlier, be there for other people. And that I think that's the essence of what you're all touching on as being a good leader, is knowing yourself and being able to then use that to help others to focus on what's important, to be able to be that good leader. So thank you so much for everything you shared. I know that I've taken away a lot of wonderful takeaways from today, and we are still not done. We have a final speaker who we are looking forward to hearing from. It's Elena, and she is sharing with us her take on leadership. And Elena is coming to us as a high performance coach, and she is actually a Proctor Gallagher Institute consultant. She was a direct student of the late Bob Proctor, and I'm going to share with you her information, because she is, oh, sorry, friends. Let's press play. And yes, her passion is to help people to unleash their inner potential and set goals beyond their comfort zone and achieve them through the proven formula created by Bob Proctor, who, as we know, is one of the best teachers of human potential and success. Through her coaching program, she helps people to shift and change paradigm and to start thinking into results. So ladies and gentlemen, we are going to hear from Elena about leadership. Hi, Elena.
Hi. It is great to be with you today, and I really enjoyed so many speakers, because everyone put so much meaning in this event. Yes, as a Proctor student, I will add some to this conversation from the point of energy, and what Bob was teaching us, that leadership is ability to lead, and it is ability to understand the energy of communication and things which we can create, ability to see the big picture and lead people by example. And communication is very important skill, and we communicate on the 3 levels: on the level of conscious mind, on the level of subconscious mind, and body. So at the level of conscious mind, it is words, gestures, and writing, right? And subconscious mind, it is part of our mind that picks up the vibrations. So it is important when we communicate that we really mean this, what we say, because if we just speak something but we think something different, people will pick it up and it will not work. So we should really be sincere when we speak with people. We should see their best, and we should speak about their best interest and how we can serve them. And we should see their picture, maybe what they cannot see for themselves yet. And physical body, it is our movements, right? Our behavior, gestures, and how we move our body. So most of information when we communicate goes through subconscious mind. And also leaders, what is the different, what makes them different is that they communicate not only at the level of 5 senses, as the most of people communicate. They use ability to see, smell, taste, and touch, and they just what they see or how they get information from these 5 senses, they just react. But the true leaders, they tap into their high potential, high abilities, as such mental faculties as ability to have perception. It means that to be able to see the situation from the different point of view and understand that everyone is unique and everyone sees his picture, and actually it is not the picture of the world which we see. It is just we see how we are. Yes, like we see in the world actually as a reflection of what is going inside of us. And the leaders, they have that ability to see the situation from different points of view, right? And if they lead a team, a group of people, so they don't just look at things as they are, like I'm a boss and you just follow me. No, they have that ability to see things from different point of view. Also, leaders, they have a big picture. They have ability to see the big picture which nobody else sees, and to help other people who they lead also to see that big picture. So they don't need motivation anymore, right? Because there are different ways how to lead people, right? There are some ways, like some people just use motivation, right? And make people from outside think that they should do something. But I think that true leaders, they help people to be inspired instead of be motivated. So they can link their personal goals, if it is about company or about some project. So leaders can read people very well, and they can connect that their personal goals and how that big goal, company goal, or whatever goal can help them also, right? So they can get those people to be inspired and use that high potential to show up every day better and achieve better, and have that big picture by using another high mental faculty, such as imagination, and another one which is intuition, right? Because again, leaders, they don't just live according to their 5 senses. They are above of the facts, right? Because if we just look at the facts and what is done or what was before, we cannot create anything new. To create new results, we need to see big picture, which is not real now, but by using will, our high mental faculty, we can focus on that big picture. And the will is ability to hold that picture in our mind to the exclusion of anything else. and help other people to see that big picture. Also, it is ability to create a powerful team who create instead of compete, right? Because many people, like in companies, many departments, and people compete with each other, but a true leader will help them to create and become a powerful team, which create instead of compete, who can be like one body and adding values to each other. Also, the one feature of all successful people and successful leaders today, it was said about this, about attitude, right? And Earl Nightingale, who was the Bob Proctor's mentor, he spoke about attitude as the most important word, because it is the attitude which we have towards life will determine life attitude towards us. So the leaders are people who expect success and who can see themselves successful, and also who can see the people who they lead also successful. And they have good attitude, they are positive, and they live and have the, instead of thinking why I cannot do this, they think, how can I do this, what I can do to make it happen, right? And also it is intuition. Yes, intuition is another high mental faculty which is very important for leaders, because we are conditioned to live a certain way, to think certain way, right? And starting from school system, we were taught how to stop dreaming, right? Because when we were very small kids, we could just get some pots and pats, right? Just some cubes maybe, and we could visualize castles or some journeys or something beautiful. And I remember I was even, I don't know, maybe even 7, 8. And I remember that we played with my father, and he told, like, let's just, from boxes, let's just make a plane and we will just fly. And I got involved in this play so much that I really thought that now we will make plane from these boxes and chairs. And I really expected that we will fly. And then I was discouraged, because disappointed after understanding that it was just a game and we will not fly. Right. So as a small kids, we had this ability to fantasize and to use our imagination. But when we went to school, the school system made a very big difference in the way how we think. We were taught that just think logically, you should be logical, right? You should know what you can, and just come out while you're dreaming, just look at your book and listen what I tell you, right? So from that period of time, we just forgot how to dream. And sometimes we just need to start do it again, and to learn how to do it again, and start using imagination. Because if we just think according what we have, we cannot create a huge results, right? And this program which Bob Proctor designed to help people to achieve big goal, that is called thinking into results, actually created the way that people set a big goal and then they become that person before they get there. Because the reason for every goal is to become that person, to grow, right? To get to different frequency. And then when we start attracting different things which we want. So one of these features for leader is ability to imagine, and imagine what they want, what their team want, and hold that picture not only in their mind, but also in people who follow this leader's mind. And of course, it is so many, we don't have a lot of time, so many things what I would share with you. And I want to also tell about communication with people, and one secret which everyone can start using. I can tell you two things. If you just start implementing and take away from today, you will see a very big change in your life. So one thing is leave every person with impression of increase, because every person is the most important person for themselves, right? And if we really want to be leaders, we should deal with people as they are the most important people in our life. So we can do one experiment, you can do it. So for next 30 days, every person you meet, you treat him or her as the most important person in your life. Just try to do that. Because see, it is everything about energy. If you give your best and you treat people with great energy and you leave them, you leave them with impression of increase. What it means? It means that when you meet person, right, for first time or later, he come with some mood, right? He is in some state, right? So what you can do, you can speak with the person in a way that it will change his state, right? That he will be like, maybe you can tell compliment, right? Or tell something which you like in this person, right? Or just cheer him up. And it will make somebody's day. And how it works at the energy level, that when you send this level energy to the universe, you will receive, because it is based on the law of compensation. The energy you give, see, we are human beings, right? We are in our body, but that power always comes to us and through us, and by our thoughts we give that power their form and shape. So when we have intention to leave everyone with impression of increase, we give the best power, right? And this energy which we send, according to the law of compensation, it will be coming back to us. So this is a very powerful exercise. Yes, to do every day. You just can strive for the next 30 days, and then you tell me how your life will change. Yes, and of course, one thing what I wanted to tell here about the language which we use, right? Like leaders are people who use right language. They don't speak about what they don't want or what they can do, and they speak about positive things. And also they don't say that like, I hate that, right? They say what he loves to do, what we like to do. So language is very important, and the better language we use, the better results we will have in our life, and the better way we will impact all people around us. Thank you very much. It was a very short, brief, what I could share with you within these time limitations. And it was really a pleasure for me to be with you today and hear all these beautiful speakers.
Thank you, Elena. I mean, you say it was a brief and short, and I know you have a lot more to share, but you packed a lot in there, as did all of our other speakers today. What a lot of value we had today. What I've noticed, Elena, a few things that you shared, which were going deep into the idea of you know, the law of if you like, compensation, reciprocation. I love the idea that you said, you know, what you give, you get back, and in meeting everybody. I think I know I will certainly be trying for 30 days that experiment that you suggested. I think that's a really good idea and a cool secret to learn about leaving that good impression on people. And it was so interesting that you talked about, you know, the three things that true leaders tap into, that there's three ways that we can take things in, you know, with the conscious, subconscious, and your body, but that real leaders will tap into their ability of perception and seeing, you know, having the picture, the bigger picture. They're not looking as well at what they can't do. They're always seeing, how can I find out what I can do, and trying to see the bigger picture, holding it and keeping it, and also passing it on to the others around them, which I think really were very, very powerful parts of your speech there. But I'd like to know what other people took from this. One thing I took as an educator, as a primary school educator, is, you know, how education has also thankfully changed in many ways from when I was certainly there learning, and yourself and people of our generation and older and younger even. But thankfully now we're trying to readdress the balance of making sure that we're almost educating new leaders coming into the fold. We have to be very aware of how we are educating, as you say, and that we're giving children the chance to share their thoughts, to have those wonderful abilities and personality traits that are going to help them to be the leaders of the future, which wasn't so much done back at when we were being educated. It was more, you know, do as I do, and this is how we do it, and you listen to what I'm telling you, etc. Now thankfully education has moved into the way that we are encouraging people to think for themselves and to become those leaders that we very much need for the next generation. And long may that get even more so, because we still have work to do, definitely, in our schools, but it's very important that we get the education right from the very young age for our next leaders. So I am so excited that we have all this wonderful information to share with everybody today from these fabulous 5 speakers, which again, I feel very honored to share the stage with. And I would like to know from you who are watching today, what you have taken from this afternoon's wonderful summit, with all of this information about how you can indeed yourself master the art of leadership. So I would like to open the floor to some questions. I'd appreciate if someone is on Facebook as well, and if anyone can pick up the questions that are coming through on Facebook. I know that I would like to ask the speakers one question to each of you, if you don't mind. I would like to put out there that if I was a child who was at school between the ages of 5 and 9, imagine I'm a child and I am saying to you, I think I would like to be a leader when I grow up. What do you think will help me most? What's the one thing you can tell me that will help me with this vision of becoming a leader? What would be your best advice? So who would like to answer my question? If you could give them just one little snippet of advice for becoming and growing to be a big leader, what would it be?
Parul, yeah, all I'm going to say is believe in yourself. If you want to be something, if you want to be a leader, you will get there. Just keep believing and you'll get there.
Fantastic. Great answer, Parul. Oh, sorry, Elena, I put you on the speaker. I didn't mean to, darling. Did you have any thoughts about it? Anyone else that would like to share?
Yeah, I put my hand up. Yeah.
Hi,
yeah.
Roger.
Hello. Yeah. First of all, congratulations to all the speakers that came on today. And Actually, I would just how to encourage a child with somebody young to be a leader. And then I think I probably would say something along the line, but look, we've got fantastic leaders such as, I don't know, there are plenty. I mean, sports coach, leadership coach, life coach, what else? Spiritual coaches, and so on and so forth. And I would say, you know, because I don't know, I try to put it in a nutshell. I mean, when you're a child, you have no fear, haven't you? You're not asking questions like we do when we get older. Yeah. When a child jump on the bed and have a pillow fight with his brother or sister, they're not asking, oh, if I fall there, I'm going to hurt my knee. They're not asking themselves questions. If they fall, they get up again, don't they? And they climb back on the bed. And then if you come in the bedroom and say, oh, stop it, they don't care. They just carry on fighting with the pillow fight. Yeah. So maybe we need to keep that spirit in them and say something like, not saying something. I'm trying to put it in a nutshell because I am aware of the time. Yeah. And then, so you wouldn't say something like, oh, it's too good to be true. You would say something like, well, this, well, at the moment is the World Cup, so I can only think about football, even though I don't watch it that much, but because it's on the television. So some like Didier Deschamps, the French coach for the French team, you know, he was a child before, wasn't he? He was a child like any of the players.
Yeah,
so
everyone starts there.
Yeah, we all start at the same place, more or less. Yeah, no, probably more than less. And then I would say, yeah, why not you? You know, I would try to encourage them along the line, and then somebody at school, let's say they want to run, I don't know, a company, and then there are plenty of people out there who run companies. And then so rather than saying, oh no, you know, be realistic, be this, be that, I probably would say something like that. Why not you?
Yeah, I love that actually, Roger. That's quite powerful. It's along the same lines as what Parul said. She said about believing in yourself. I mean, that is really where it's got to start, hasn't it? And why not you? Yeah. So that is essentially telling them you can do anything you want to. And that is really the message we need to give to our little people, to our children that are coming up to be those next leaders. Thank you so much for your input, Roger. Really appreciate it. I would love to hear from Dr. Ola or Elena or any of our other speakers, of Samantha. I think, yeah, anyone just got one little thing that they could say to me. I'm between the ages of 3 and 9. It'll probably be a similar one. Hi, Elena.
I can share. Yes, I would say that one thing is mind control. Ability to control your thoughts, and understanding that you always have a choice. You have accept or reject.
Love it.
Idea or fact, whatever happened in any situation, you have ability to choose. Do you want to accept this, or you just reject it and you think about what you want the situation to be?
Wow, that's great advice.
To very different level. It means like if you reject and you just think what you want to think about and how you want to do it and how you want it to be, so you will always be in this resourceful state. And you, instead of just being like energetically drop and see, oh, problem, what happened, why it happened to me, like instead of being victim of outside world, you will always be in charge. And you can say, okay, this happened, but what I can do, I want this, so I will see this picture for me, whatever happens, but I will do that. And this focus, it will always will help to find the resources and different opportunities, because everything is energy. And if you keep yourself in that frequency, in high frequency, right? Like being grateful, even for mistakes which happens to us. If we're still grateful, even in the worst moments, but it is up to us what we will think about, right? So whatever happens, we still can just start thinking what is good in our life, right? And being in that high frequency, it will help us to deal with many obstacles and many situations in life and always be a winner.
I love that. Thoughts become things, don't they? I mean, it's so essential, isn't it? You know, if you're in that place where you're embracing the choices, like you say, amazing. I think that's really great advice for children, because children need to understand about that individuality. We talk about the self-belief, but they also need to know that they're unique. They don't have to follow the crowd. They can have a different thought. They can have a different choice. They're making decisions, and their thoughts are so powerful that if they take away from being the victim and think, like you say, positively with gratitude of their thoughts, then the thoughts become the things, and the opportunities are endless. I absolutely love that. Thank you, Elena, for sharing that with us.
And just one thing, if we speak about kids, I would say that if it is we speak to kids, it is what I always say to my daughter, that if you fail, it is good. It is just a process. You can never win without failing. So just see the failure or any situation just as a process, because every time you fail, you can learn and you become more powerful, more have more wisdom, experience. So next time you will do better. And all the winners, all the champions, they have so much attempts when they fail, right? But because of those attempts, actually they become champions.
And again, wonderful, a gem of advice there, Elena. And I would also say that going back to the education system and how it's so different now, thankfully, we now have a generation of teachers of, certainly from when I started, was very much coming to the children of mistakes are great. We learn from mistakes. They are the biggest learning curve that we have. My favorite saying was to them, you know, the little erasers, rubbers on the end of the pencil. Why do you think a pencil's got rubbers? You're meant to make mistakes. That's life, you know, and we learn from them. So thank you again for sharing that. Wonderful. Great. And anybody else want to share or have a question this afternoon for our panel?
Yeah. Can I add something else, if it's okay?
Go for it, Roger.
Okay. Right. Anyway, so 450. Okay. Right. So maybe because when I was at school, I was taught topics: Spanish, English, French, history, geography, math, and so on and so forth. But I think because I used to be quite a timid child when I was at school, yeah, and so I think what I picked that up from a live Zoom I went on last night, okay, from the francophonie, from the francophone world, yeah, and they mentioned confiance en soi, so that's confidence in yourself, and how you're knowing yourself and your esteem you have about yourself, yeah. And then this is not taught at school, is it? I don't know now these days, but I doubt it. It's not really taught properly, is it? And then so the if I may, well, actually I am going to name it because it's not coming from me. It's coming from the work of Mohamed Bouclé in France, who inspired himself in the first place from Tony Buzan, an English guy, and for speed reading, mind mapping, and amongst other things. And now and he works with the French government for some of his training for students. And what he does, he includes what I just mentioned: confidence in yourself, knowing yourself, and and value yourself. Yeah, that's what he means by esteem the soi, and value yourself. Yeah. And then he's taught that his courses are extremely popular. They feel like in a day or less, and he also works with the French government for that, so they get funding and that kind of thing. Not for all of them, but I think what I'm trying to say, I think if we try to, beside the topics they learn, beside French, Spanish, and so on and so forth, why not teach confidence in yourself, knowing yourself, and value yourself at a very early age? Yeah. And then some of the kids there who have gone through some of this program, and they are very much affordable. I think they are probably the cheapest on the market, and is doing extremely well, that guy, French guy. Anyway, they've increased. So in France, the way you mark people is out of 20. I don't know in this country, it's out of 20. So some kids who didn't have any confidence in themselves, and then when they've improved their confidence in themselves through his coaching, working with somebody who works for the Education Nationale, have increased their average mark from 9 to 16. So 9 is like middle of the road type of thing, yeah, to 16, which is like 8 out of 10.
So what you're saying, Roger, is how important it is to get, this additional coaching for confidence. What I would say is certainly in the UK here, we start off with our education with the youngest ones, 3 to 5, the early years. Education system includes personal and social development as the number one almost priority, up there with, communication, language, and literacy. It's like essentially the most important thing for those children to learn in their education at that age, and therefore we should be encouraging all those things about confidence development, believing in themselves, their uniqueness, etc., being able to make friends, have relationships, all of that good stuff, which they should learn at that very early age. And then I think what happens in our education system as other subjects come in, and the importance of things like the mathematics and the science that grow within the curriculum, these sometimes get pushed out, although there is an allowance there. We now have citizenship in the curriculum, which is wonderful, and we do still do PSHE, which is personal, social, and emotional development. It's still there within the curriculum, certainly in primary schools, but we still have work to do. There's always work to do, and I think that more and more of that in schools, by bringing in extra speakers, etc., extra people that can work with the children on.
But that's what he does himself. Yeah, he goes into school,
because that's almost like bringing in a mini coaching situation into primary schools on top of what is taught on the curriculum. There's much work to do, and I'm sure there's work to do in all schools around the world, because I do still think, obviously, as we all probably are the same belief here, how important it is from a very young age to get this established, and then it grows and brings the next leaders forward for the next generation. Thank you so much for your share this afternoon, Roger. I'm just going to get in with Shanaz very quickly. Shanaz, you have your hand up, darling.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was muted. I am the founder and chair of a doctors' trade union called the Locum Doctors Association. So I'm formally a doctor's leader. But being a leader isn't in itself enough. You have to be a good leader. A leader alone is not necessarily a good leader. And you should aim to be a near perfect leader. I won't use the word perfect because there's no such thing as a perfect leader. So I shall say near perfect leader. So a leader does need to keep improving and keep developing leadership skills and attain for the goal of near perfect leader. And for this, I'll just say that all the points put forward by all the speakers today were excellent and they were very useful. And I'm certainly going to use them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shanaz, for sharing. And I absolutely 100% agree with you. And again, the point you've brought up about being near perfect, it's almost like just striving to be the best, isn't it? A leader will see what has gone wrong, a failure, and learn from it. A leader will see the vision of what can be done better or what can improve. And this is what it's all about. A lot of our speakers alluded to the accountability and of maybe working with someone who's that little step ahead of you, so that you can always be striving to be your best. So again, you've reiterated that point that a lot of people mentioned. So thank you for sharing that, Shanaz, and thank you so much for being here and for your support. Elena, I'd like to come to you. You popped your hand back up. Would you like to share with us?
Yes, actually, I wanted to share also one thing for parents, right? Because we started from leadership and now we move to children, because yes, our children are our leaders in future, right? So if one thing I would like to tell the parents is how they can help the best to their kids. If it is just would be one thing, it is to grow them and help them to be confident in themselves. Yes, just show their wins every day, help them to celebrate small wins, because again, part of conditioning, most of, like, if we just go for our childhood, right, and again to school, if we did one mistake, this mistake with red pen, right, it would be marked, and even everything if was good, and if we just did one mistake and it was marked with red, all our attention would go to that what we did mistake, right? So we got conditioned to be afraid of mistake, and unfortunately many people, many parents, they become parents but they inherit this in genes and
It's
from
so true.
environment, right? When they were small, all these patterns of behavior and reaction, and unfortunately they notice mistakes which kids do, right? And just it is very fast just to make, why you did mistake, why this, why you drop that. But not all parents notice really great characters and what kids do great, right? To praise them and grow them confident, because this is so much important that the kid is confident. Because if the kid is confident, you know, confident and right attitude, it is like 90% of success, because people can know a lot, they can be like walking encyclopedia, but if they have right attitude towards themselves, what that picture that they see about themselves, and usually this picture is formed when they are small. And
100%,
if that picture is wrong, and if the kid is not confident about himself, it doesn't matter how much money parents spend on education and different universities. It doesn't matter actually about the knowledge, but it gets back to this confidence that the person has about self, ability to have that picture, what he can do, because people achieve not what they know, they achieve what they believe that is true about themselves.
Wow, yes, powerful sentence. Yes, they believe what they think is true about themselves. Yeah, absolutely. I'm really glad you mentioned that too, because I think all parents, we bear a responsibility to bring our children up, our little people, to do it the best we can. And I think sometimes we forget the monumental responsibility that is, that everything we do, say, all of our behavior, we're a role model for the children. Everything is being watched, and you are setting that child up to have these thoughts that will go with them, and we just need to try and keep that positive attitude, like you say, of being in that place of picking up all the wonderful things that they do in balance with things that they've done wrong, but we're then seeing things they do wrong, recognizing the learning that has come out of that, and at the same time letting them see it in yourself. It's like, to make a good reader, what do you have to do? Let them see you reading all the time from a baby. Let them see you reading to them, reading to yourself, reading the paper, checking on the internet, the news, you know, and that's going to build a good reader. In the same way as a role model, the way we live our lives is going to help them to be that. So if we can work on ourselves and be confident and be everything that we want to be, we can then pass on those skills a lot easier to our children. And fabulous. And then we have to be aware as well in different environments that they can be affected within those environments, and keep the learning going even when they go off to nursery or school, because they may get insecurities there within those places where they see other people behaving a certain way. You just always bring them back to the essence of knowing that they need to believe what they believe, their choices, and to know the strength in who they are. So thank you everybody today. I have thoroughly enjoyed sharing the stage with our wonderful speakers today. I am very proud to be part of this GST community. Global Speakers Talk is a wonderful platform for people to find their voice and to get what they need to say out there without the fear of the camera or people or judgment. And we have a great safe community in which you can learn to do that and then share what you have to put out to the world. So I just want to leave you today with thanking all of my guests. Wonderful afternoon, and thank you for everything you've shared. If you watch the replay, please do let us know. If you're just tuning in and you've missed it all, #replay. We love to know that you've come and watched us. We love to know what your takeaways are. I will put in all the little notes that my friends have sent to me in the chat, into the Facebook chat, so that it also shares up with regard to some of the points mentioned today. And I just want to wish you all a blessed Sunday afternoon. Sunday, what am I talking about? Saturday afternoon. I'm a day ahead. And I want to say, please do join us next month for another summit where we'll talk about another topic. All right, take care, friends.
Take care.
Lisa, and thank you for being an amazing host today.
Thank you, Elena. You're very sweet. I appreciate that. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.